everybody, my name's Carrie. Thank you so much for joining me today. Today is Monday. No, today is Tuesday, July 13th, 2021. Welcome. Whether you're new or returning, I appreciate you being here. If you're new, this is my channel where I talk about the crafty things that I do, mostly quilting and knitting. It's a lot of quilting in this episode, as it was last episode, because of that. So I will talk about that in a second, but I want to thank everybody for being here. Any links to anything that I talk about will be in the description box below, as well as links to where you can find me on Instagram and Ravelry. So welcome. The last time I spoke with you, we were getting ready to go camping, and we did, and we had a great time. It was pretty warm, and we were camping without electricity, so even though we have lights and that kind of thing in our trailer, anything that has to plug in, like a fan, air conditioner, any of that, doesn't work unless your trailer is plugged into a power source. There wasn't anything like that, so we were just pretty warm. The first day we knew was going to be kind of warm. We planned on laying around, and we just sort of kept moving our camp chairs and following the shade around. And I read a whole book that day, which was really nice to actually just get into a book and read it the whole way through. And we were able to take some hikes and see some beautiful scenery. And then on the way home, I was like, well, let's check the weather and see what this week's looking like, because Jim's trying to plan, what his week's going to look like. And I see that we're headed into this major heat wave. I'm sure by now you guys have all heard of it. We had pretty hot weather. It got up to 116 on the hottest day of the stretch. It was several days of very hot temperatures. And if you live in a hot climate, that probably doesn't seem like a lot, or doesn't seem like it's that big of a deal, but we don't get that hot. And I would say the majority of people that live in the Pacific Northwest don't have air conditioning. So you're just hot. You can't get away from it when it's that hot. People were having their vinyl siding was melting off the side of their house. It was eerily quiet, because nobody was outside, no birds were chirping. It was very apocalyptic feeling, and it was just so incredibly hot that it was hard to breathe when you did go outside. But we survived. Violet, for some reason, thought it was just wonderful to go and lay out in the sun and bake for a few minutes, and she's crazy. But we survived. We do have air conditioning in our house. Luckily, it stayed well. I was just like, this is not the time for this to fail. And it didn't. It did fine, and we were able to stay comfortable. Not everybody had that luxury, I guess, of having the air conditioning. So we made it through. It was tough. And it was weird because one of the ways to help battle it is just close up all your windows, like close up blinds, curtains, whatever you have to block the heat from coming through. And so I closed everything up, and then it was just super depressing because I really need to see outside, if not be outside. So it was hard for me to even be feeling creative to knit or do anything crafty. So there was a couple days where I just kind of laid low. But, got through it. Hopefully that doesn't happen again, because that was crazy. We just got back from this weekend, went to Sisters, Oregon, to the Sisters Outdoor Quilt Show. It is an annual event that happens the third weekend of July every year, and the whole town is covered in quilts. They hang quilts from every storefront, inside of stores. There's just quilts everywhere. And we met up with Erin and Chip of the Fiber Hustle, and Jim went with me, and we had a really fun weekend. And we just hung out and went to the quilt show, and it was just really lovely. They're fantastic guys, as I already knew, but really comfortable to be around, and we had a lot of fun. The show was a little bit smaller than it has been in the past. Last year they didn't have it, closed it down, or didn't have it because of COVID. And so this year they had it, but they had it smaller, which was a shame because it is really neat to see all the quilts and stuff. I didn't take a ton of pictures. There wasn't really much that I was hoping to find something that was like, oh, wow, that's awesome. I've got to make that. And I didn't find that for me. There's lots of beautiful quilts, and it was really neat to just see the different styles and the different exhibits that they had. But I didn't find anything that really wowed me. So I'm still on the hunt because I finished my Alaska Rainbow quilt. I have been posting my progress on Instagram, so if you follow me there, you'll have seen a lot of this, but I talked about this quilt in the previous episode and how I went about putting it together. It is part of a quilt-along with fiber hustle, curly seams, and the wool patch. And like I had said before in the previous episode, once I got started on it, I couldn't stop. And I got the whole top finished. So I am going to be quilting it here pretty soon. I did just order some wide backing fabric. So it's fabric that comes, instead of about a 44-inch wide, it's usually like 110-ish. And I find that if I can find that at a good enough price, it's cheaper to buy the wide backings than to buy yardage of quilt fabric and piece it together, because you get so much. You already have the width, and then you just figure out, you know, how much you need for the length of it, or whichever way you want to go. This quilt is square, so I just needed like 2.5 yards of the wide back, and Connecting Threads had a sale yesterday, 25% off their wide backs, and I'm like, I'm gonna get that. So I went through my closet, because my goal as of now is to actually quilt some of the tops I have waiting to be quilted, to actually just do it. That used to be my favorite part of quilt making, was to do the long arm quilting on it, and I've since just sort of like, it doesn't excite me as much as it used to. So I've got some pantographs that I'm gonna do, and I'm gonna get some quilts finished. So I ordered some backings for a couple of other quilts as well. So I'm anxious to start my next quilt, whatever quilt that will be, but I figure I need to make sure that I get the ones quilted that I have already pieced into a top. So this quilt is a pattern by Laundry Basket Quilts. It's called Alaska Rainbow. The fabrics I have were from the kit from the website, except for the background fabric. I substituted with some grays instead of the cream that came with it. And it's pretty gorgeous, I have to say. I mean, that's not any bragging on my part. It's just a pretty quilt, and you know, I just followed the directions and used the fabric provided. So I was just the vessel for getting it finished. But I really enjoy it. I really loved working on it. I love the look of it. And so now when I get my backing fabric from Connecting Threads, I will quilt it. And I knew when I was making it, I wasn't going to custom quilt it. I just don't want to. And so I've got a couple of pantographs that I'm considering. It's not finalized yet. I still have to kind of think about it. Now, pantograph, I showed how that works on my long arm, I think way back on episode 5. I'm pretty sure that's when it was, where it shows how it works. And basically a pantograph is a quilting design that's printed on paper. I have my long arm machine on with a laser light that shines on the lines, and I just move the long arm with keeping the laser on the lines, and it's stitching the design. So I got Woven Wind. This is a pantograph. I kind of like the design. I think it would be kind of a neat design, and it's sort of a rainbow shade. So that's a possibility. I get my pantographs from Quilts Complete, in case anybody is wanting to know. This one is, who did this one? Apricot Moon, I guess, is the designer. So that's a possibility. And I just, you know what I do? I use hair ties. I mean, obviously I can't use a hair tie for me, but I use them to keep my pantographs rolled up because I don't have a computer, so I have to hand guide my machine. and these don't get weird like regular rubber bands do. Another possibility is called Love Those Curls by Lake Ridge Designs, and it's just an overall kind of a swirl pattern. And I could do this on my own, but since I don't quilt that often anymore, I would have to do a little bit of practicing before I did it, and it's just easier to do it with a pantograph, because then everything is pretty evenly spaced and stuff. So those are two possibilities. I'm going to use a polyester rayon thread. Is it rayon? I can't remember now. I think it's just polyester from Superior Threads. Superior Threads is primarily the only thread I use in my long arm because they have so many different types of thread, as far as like if you want to shine, if you want thick or thin or cotton, looks like cotton or whatever. They've got crap tons of types of thread. I also use Superior Threads when I piece. I use their So Fine, which is a polyester thread, but it's a 50 weight thread, so it's really thin, and it doesn't take up as much room in the seam. So anyway, I'm going to do this color called Desert Rose, and it is going to have a little bit of shine, and it's just, it's weird because when you see them on the cone like this, same thing happens when you do yarn and it's in a skein form. You can't really tell what it looks like. But what I do is I pull off like a length of thread and I just sort of drop it on the quilt, sort of in a puddle, and see how the colors play against the lighter colors and the darker colors. And this goes well with all the colors on the quilt without screaming really loud on the light colors. I don't like, and I just don't think it looks as good to have a dark colored thread on light fabric. I think light colored thread on dark fabric looks better than dark thread on light fabric. So this will stay light on the grays and the lighter colors in the background, and then look just fine over the darker colored pieces, because there's some green and purple and pink, and so it all just kind of sorry, it all kind of just blend in. It'll just be against the background. So I am done with the quilt like 3 weeks early, which completely surprises me. Did not think that was going to happen when I first agreed to do it. Told y'all about that last episode. So it's pretty cool. So I was able to take a couple of glamour shots of it when we were on our trip this past weekend, and so that was pretty cool. Thanks to Aaron, he helped me get a good shot too. So now that quilt's done, I'm like, what's my next quilt going to be? And I really should make the t-shirt quilt that I promised my friend's daughter. I don't want to, because I just don't want to. I don't like making t-shirt quilts, but I agreed to do it for her because she's a good friend. So I really should do that next. I'm going to get some interfacing to press onto the back of the t-shirts, because t-shirts are so stretchy. The interfacing that you get is like a woven interfacing that fuses onto the back side of the t-shirts, and then that keeps everything steady. And then you just kind of cut it to whatever size you want to do and sew it together. And I promised it, so I'm going to do it, but I don't want to. But I did order a book. I had pre-ordered this a few months ago, and I finally got it probably right after I recorded this. And it's the Kaleidoscope Quilt by Lori Holt. And I think this is going to be my next quilt. Just a lap size probably. I did think about maybe making a queen size and have it in our trailer, because when I was on Connecting Threads to get the backing, the wide backing, there was a fat quarter pack that I just love the colors. It was sort of a muted rainbow. Can't seem to get away from the rainbow colors, but it was some flannel. And I thought, oh, that just looks so warm and fuzzy. But the thing with flannel's thicker, and you really kind of want the flannel on the back side because you don't have that up against your skin. It's on the top. So what difference does it make if it's got flannel? But it got me inspired with, I want to find something with those colors and do this quilt. And this book has different size instructions for different size blocks of this block. So if you make the crib size, I think you do an 8-inch block. The lap size is a 12-inch. The queen size is a 14-inch. So it's instructions to do the different sizes of this block. And then also, I thought this would be really cool. Do like 3 of these blocks or something and make a table runner or something like that. I mean, just use the blocks for different things. So that's going to be my next quilt that I make, I think. Got to get the quilts quilted. I really need to do the t-shirt quilt because I promised, and I promised that like 2 years ago. And I'm probably going to have to make the wedding quilts because I think the 2 daughters of my friend are going to probably get married next year. So probably should do that. Oh, maybe I should make this as a wedding quilt. What do you think? Maybe I will. I don't know. Anyway, so that's my little quilting journey, if you will. There hasn't been a ton of knitting. Last time I spoke with you, I was showing you my progress on the Vertices Unite, which it was part of the Fiber Hustles Hustlers United knit along. And I was almost done with the first section, and I just was like, I'm not feeling this. The more I got into making it, I wasn't really hooked on it. And I thought, I'm going to end up with this giant shawl that I am never going to wear. Guaranteed I will never wear it. And I thought I could use those 5 skeins of yarn and knit a sweater, which I'd be more likely to wear. So I stopped. I haven't ripped it out yet because I wanted to really make sure that was going to be my final decision. But I haven't touched it in probably, what's it been, almost a month? I think I showed it on the last episode. So I'm not going to finish it. I already talked to Aaron. I mean, like, he doesn't care, but if you like, there's so many people like that shawl and are really enjoying making it, and I wanted to be part of that, and I'm just not feeling it. So that's the end of that knitting project. But I did start a crochet project. In my search for, I've been looking for a garment to knit that's not a poncho, but not a sweater, and I wasn't sure what it was. And when I had the chance to meet up with my local knit group in person, we were talking about it, and my friend Ruth was saying it's called what's it called? A ruanan? What's it called? Anyway, it's called that. I started looking up that because that's what I was that's what I had pictured in my head. It's not a poncho, it's not a sweater, but it's just a loose throw-on kind of thing. In that search, I found this pattern, which is the Lana Kimono by Ashley Kaiser. It's a free pattern on Ravelry. You click the link on Ravelry and it takes you to a blog. Unfortunately, it's not a printed out pattern, but it's super easy. So I just took a picture of my computer screen that had the basic information and I just went for it. So I've got it halfway done. So all you do is, there's my crochet, is you just crochet 2 rectangles. You can't see it. I don't have to get too far away. But you crochet 2 rectangles to a certain size. It's just double crochet over and over and over. And then it goes like this. Then you will cinch the 2 in the back because I'll make the other side. You'll stitch it part way and that becomes the neck. And then you stitch here and it becomes the sweater. And it actually ends up being kind of like what I'm wearing right now. So I started that and I'm enjoying it quite well, actually. This is being crocheted out of Lion Brand's jeans, and this is the color Stonewash, I believe. Yes, Stonewash. This is labeled as a worsted weight, but I think it's really closer to a DK. This is the yarn that the pattern suggested, so I have used this before. I made a poncho that I never wear, and I made a hat for somebody that was going through chemo because it's extremely soft. It is an acrylic yarn, It is 100 grams for 246 yards, and it is 100% acrylic, machine wash, really good price point. I like this yarn. I like working with it. I like the garment it's making. I did even do a foundation chain, I think is what it's called when you start. So usually on crochet, and I don't know crochet that well. I mean, I'm getting by on just doing some double crochet, but I don't really know a lot about it to speak intelligently about it. But I gotta get my chair. I've got my chair hiked up. I can't touch the floor. Anyway, what was I saying? Oh, foundation chain. So it's a way of doing a chain with a little bit of meat to it, you know, because when you do a chain, it's just skinny, and then to keep that from twisting when you go back the other way, if you have a little bit more fabric than just the chain, it's easier to keep things straight. So I looked up how to do a foundation chain, and I did it, and it worked. I think it worked. I did make this 12 stitches longer than what it called for, because I didn't feel like it was going to be long enough. And you're supposed to crochet so many rows or to get to where you're like 24 inches. So it depends on how much I pull this out. I'm at 22 to 24 inches, but it goes down almost to my wrist, so I don't need it to be any wider. So I will start the next ball. This took 2 full balls. In fact, that's what's left of the second ball, and I've just clipped it on here. I don't want to cut it, being that that's kind of the end, because I might be able to just use that to sew up when you sew up the back. So I will get the other half started, and hopefully it'll be done by the time you see it next. I was even able to work on this when we were driving to Sisters, and crochet, I have to really look, but you're crocheting with a jumbo hook. I had to go get a hook because it's an N15 and it's a 10 millimeter, so it's a fat hook, so it just makes a loose stitch and keeps things drapey, I think. So that's what I'm working on. I told you my woes of my sock machine, that I can't knit socks on it right now. So I actually started by hand some socks. So this is from, this one I got for my birthday from Lori. It's Rock and Strings. And it's really pretty. I thought that gray was going to be a thinner stripe, but it's an evenly striped. And I'm doing a 3x1 ribbed sock. When I get to the heel, I'm going to do a heel flap and gusset. I haven't done that in a really long time. And then I'll keep the ribbing on the top, but not the bottom. I did another pair of socks, a couple different pairs of socks, and those are the ones that seem to fit me the best because of the ribbing. It just kind of helps hold it on your foot so they don't get too baggy. And I think it looks pretty cool. So I am doing those by hand, which was nice because I have like a sock project. And I shared with you my sock that I did on the knitting machine. My last one, it was the Lolo Did It Helping Hippos colorway, and I had the cuff and the heel, and all I had to do was put in the toe, but I accidentally put in another cuff. So I have a double cuffed sock. And I thought, oh, geez, I can't remember because they're not exactly the same length, and I can't remember which side's supposed to be the foot and which side's supposed to be the leg. So I know which ribbing to take out. So I just kind of went, oh, that really sucks, and I'm just going to put that away. Like, dang it. So those socks didn't get me very far. I tell you, I got to do bingo with Fiber Hustle, and in June it's Pride Month, and so their theme was Pride, and so I dressed up and decked out my little space here to celebrate Pride, and I did win a bingo, and I won a little stack of fabric. This was donated by Scrappy Angel, and it's part of the Tula Pink line. That's just white. Got polka dots, zebras. It's all blacks and whites. And this will be, that's a cool piece. And I love this honeycomb. They have this in different colors. Little pandas. What's this one? Just floral. And, oh, that looks like a bunny. You see the bunny head? I think that's what that's supposed. Oh, no. Sorry. It's birds. If you turn it the right side around, it's birds. It's like one of those ink blot things. There's a stripe, a polka dot, and then a tonal. So that was very generous. It was a very generous donation. They get donations for prizes, and they're so sweet to send them out to everybody that won. I also, since I last recorded, got some yarn from my friend Rob. I can't remember who he said dyed this. I'll look it up. But isn't that pretty with the pinks and golds? He sent that to me, and then he also was dabbling in dyeing. Here we go. We've got a little set. Isn't that cool? That was really, really thoughtful and surprising. And then Ruth, who is in my local little knit group, there's only a few of us that have continued to get together on Zoom, gave me this beautiful color. It is Yarn Days. I don't know if it's still around, and it's 50% superwash merino, 50% tencel. It's a fingering weight at 420 yards. So I don't know what I'm going to do with that, but it feels really soft, and I think with the tencel it'll have a really nice drape for something. Maybe I'll put it in the sweater I'm going to make. We'll see. So, keep doing how we do. And I've got another camping trip coming up here in a couple of weeks. And I'm going to get some quilting done. So hopefully I'll have some finished quilts to show you. Maybe not the binding, but the quilts. So anyway, be well, be creative, and I'll see you next time. Bye.